Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. I'm Rudo. He's AJ. We're talking expectations. Maybe not expectations. Maybe more of hopes versus disasters. One way or another. We're talking the new Avs and what the way things could go for them next season. We'll see. We're going to go to the extremes. We'll probably have some takes in the middle. We'll be all over the map with it. So we'll see how it goes. AJ, I don't think I got a chance to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Today, do you think the Avs are a better hockey team than they were last year?
Talent-wise, like raw talent-wise,
Mm-hmm.
I think yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, boy, it's close because I think, yeah, let's go with yes for right now. In terms of being better prepared for guys playing proper roles, I think certainly, like without a question. In terms of getting role players that are natural fits for the roles they're going to be asked to play. I guess not even role players. I mean, Ryan Johansen as 2C has been a 2C for a number of years. So I do think in that way they are a more complete team. But I do think with the just in terms of raw talent, I would say maybe a little bit better, but it's awfully close.
Yeah, I do think they are better. Obviously, the big caveat there being both last year and this year will not have Gabe Landeskog. But on the whole, I do think they are better, given what we've seen, what we are going to get into when it comes to expectations. I think the guys the Avs went out and got this year, the expectations are at least a little bit, if not quite a bit higher than some of the guys last year. So,
in terms of guys that they acquire and bring in from the outside, yeah, because the Avs didn't do very much of that last year.
Yep.
It was a lot of re-signing guys, and then, well, we hope that these guys internally get better.
Yep.
And this year, I think that's an important distinction because this year, how many guys are we looking at on Colorado's roster and saying they are planning right now, today, right now, in this moment, they appear to be planning for these guys to get better internally. Just these are guys that were here last year, and we are expecting better seasons out of them than what they have previously given us. Because I don't think it's very many. It's like Bo Byram.
I mean, it's a little bit of a funny thing, right? You're expecting more health this year out of a lot of guys that now that's entirely out of their control. But
yeah, and I'm not really talking about like Nichushkin staying healthy and and then out producing.
2 different things, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I just mean like I gotta not lean on this table, which apparently wobbles because it's going like this. So
smash the table.
It's like Josh Manson is also in that conversation of he spent so much of the season hurt and when he was playing, certainly in the second half when he was playing,
it was bad.
Yeah, like he was nursing whatever that injury ended up being. I actually don't know what it was. And wasn't good. Like he just wasn't. You could see that last game that he played. You watched the watch along, and you could see we were like, Josh Manson can't skate, man.
Yeah.
So it was hard to watch that. So I don't think that I would say not including the injuries. Just like, hey, these guys are just having better seasons.
Yep.
I don't think there's very many on the roster. Like there's just not many.
Certainly not at the top. Obviously, McKinnon, Mikko had unbelievable years last year. So I'm with you on that. It's going to be interesting, though, because I do think there is more boom or bust potential with the guys the Avs got this year. That's kind of what we're going to get into today as best cases and worst cases a little bit here. AJ, do you want to start at the top or the bottom here?
Start at the bottom. Let's build.
All right. We can
work our way up.
Do you even want to include Jack Johnson in this? I'm assuming no.
No.
I think so. What about Olofsson?
No. Just because I think his best case is like he makes the roster and he's a passable fourth line player. Like it's like,
yeah, I think that's perfectly valid. Okay, so with a handful of new-ish guys at the bottom of your lineup, the first real one to talk about, I'm going to put Miles Wood first. We'll talk about Colton second.
Okay.
Wood coming in, comes out of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Can this guy reasonably be a middle six guy, or is he a hard third liner?
I mean, I think for me, Miles Wood is a bottom six player.
Okay.
There's very, very, very little playmaking to speak of.
Yeah.
And on one hand, I'm good with that because they needed goals from that bottom six last year.
Who could score? Yeah.
And Miles Wood is a guy who has consistently, okay, in the last 5 years, 5 years, that he has actually been healthy enough to play a substantial number of games. So I'm obviously eliminating the 3-game hip surgery season that he had. But and even that, if you wanted to include
10 goals in that season,
like five out of the last 6 years, he is at least a 10-goal guy with a high of 19 and a low of 10.
Yep.
So you are talking, and hell, even his rookie season when he only played 60 games, he scored 8.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about a guy here who is going to give you goals.
Yeah.
Asking him for 10 goals on your third line is not unreasonable, and you, to be honest, you would probably still be a little disappointed if he only gave you 10.
I think he should be asking for 15. To be honest,
I think 15 is fair as well. I think 15 should be. It's that 20 goals is like you're a real goal scorer now.
Yeah,
I don't know about that, but 10 should be a baseline.
Yep, I really do think. Look, the Avs clearly saw something that they really think is going to fit with Miles Wood, given the 6-year deal. They were willing to commit to that for a long time. Even if it is a cheap deal, whatever, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
You don't go out and give a guy a 6-year deal because you think he's going to give you 20 points every year. I really think the expectation should be 30 points there.
I mean, he's only hit 30 points once in his career.
I know.
So I would say my expectation for him is 15-10. Every single year, sure. 15 and 10. I'm good with that. If he has a better year than that, amazing. If he does not, concerning.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I have him right in that range, just based on his career. And the fact that I think he's going to get the kind of ice time. He's averaged right around 13 minutes of ice time in his career. I think that's probably right in line with where he's going to get.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think that's where I am. And best case, since that's what we're talking about today, best case is 35. He does have the 20-goal season. He does, and it's probably driven a little bit by shooting percentage.
Oh, definitely.
Because he's a guy that is only, he has a career shooting percentage under 10, which for forwards is not encouraging. But the reason that he scores as many goals as he does is because that dude has a lot of breakaways.
Yeah.
He ends up a lot in a lot of odd man rushes because he is very, very fast. That is exciting because that's obviously a great fit in Colorado. That is concerning because over the course of a 6-year deal, you don't expect a guy to still be very, very fast at age 34. So, but that's age 34's problem.
Wood is a little bit weird to me when it comes to the best case scenario because I think his best case scenario is less about production in general, I guess. Like, obviously 35 points would be great. You'd be taking that to the bank. But with him, his best case scenario is he gets here and he finds a way to be passable or better on the defensive side of the puck. Maybe the Avs throw him out for a couple of PKs and it works out better than I'm expecting it to.
Yeah, I would say best case, he does add a little more versatility in the type of roles that he can play, but the big thing there is that he cuts down on the penalty minutes.
Yeah, cannot put himself in the box as much for sure.
He at least I would say his goal should be to break even on penalties taken, penalties drawn. You break even and maintain the physical kind of hard-nosed style that he has. That's fine.
Keep it under a penalty minute per game, please.
I would say try to keep it at like half of
yeah, that would be good.
Like I'm if he plays all season and he finishes with 40 penalty minutes, huge win.
Yep.
So that, we'll just keep it under 60, my guy. But yeah, I think that's probably my best case scenario for Miles Wood, is that he proves Colorado correct and that he's a very good fit, and he gives them that spark in their bottom six that they need, and has a 20-goal season. Puts up 35 points.
Is worst case scenario he's offensively LOC?
I mean, given that LOC had one fewer point than him last year, I would say probably worse than that.
Fair. LOC's goal scoring. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking a razor thin margin here between goals. It's like a handful over the last couple of years. But I do
LOC
think
under 10 though.
Yeah. Each of the last 2 years, and he played all the games. So not great, Bob. Hey, maybe that prodigious playmaking from LOC leads to more Miles Wood goals on the right side. Okay. Maybe he's the right wing, and it's the fourth line that we just have been ignoring. No, I think the worst case scenario is that it's a total disaster, right? And he takes way too many penalties.
Not even NHL functional.
And he plays 10 minutes a night, and he has a 14-point season, something like that. And
you're stuck with
look
this.
Like
yeah.
You look like, oh my God, what are the next 5 years going to look like? This is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah. And obviously, first of all, worst case scenario for everyone is, of course, being injured. We're not
injured. Yeah, I felt like that went without saying, but I'm glad you did bring it up, because yes,
because not playing games is, for 99% of NHLers, worse than playing games.
Yeah, for that 1%, man, you pay them apparently $1 million a year.
You said it, not me.
Whatever.
But yeah, the Avs need to get a functional NHLer out of Miles Wood, given the commitment they made to him. $2.5 million of essentially dead cap, if he's struggling to do basic NHL things, would be very, very bad.
Yeah. I think of the guys that we're going to talk about today, Miles Wood has the smallest amount of variance of.
I would agree.
Best case, worst case, and even the realistic expectation. I think it's probably somewhere right in. I mean, we're talking about one hot streak in a month. Like a guy has one great month where the stick is hot, and he just, he scores 4 goals in a month.
It's not that hard to be a 20-point guy, which to me is the absolute floor you need to get out of him.
Yeah. Otherwise, this is. like Miles Wood is like a proven, like he's a fine.
He's been doing this for a
Like
while for
yeah,
sure.
he is a fine bottom six guy. There isn't like a ton. When we talk about all the risks that there's going to be, it's for the guys that are playing more important roles. Miles Wood's not that.
Yep.
Miles Wood is he's fine. Like I when I think about this team and I get nervous, it doesn't have anything to do with Miles Wood. And when I think about this team and I envision what I think is the best version of it, it doesn't have anything to do with Miles Wood. Like he's just, I think he is going to be a set and forget safe guy in the lineup that I think Jared Bednar will probably love, despite the penalty issues, and hopefully can wean them off of the Andrew Cogliano overplaying love that Jared Bednar had.
The expectation of physicality there too from Wood, I think, is important. Yes, he's going to do some dumb penalty things sometimes, but if he's in that sense, if he's Logan O'Connor, but just a larger human being where he gets out there and just starts running into stuff with his speed, Bednar's going to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've said this a 1,000 times, and I'm going to keep talking about it, but I think it's the combination of Wood with Colton.
Yeah.
That is such an intriguing change to their bottom six, because Colton is way more physical than Wood is. Wood is a physical guy, but Colton is he's like a hit parade. And Wood is very competitive, and he'll do a lot of things that you really like. And he will, obviously, he's not shy about hitting people, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and hit four guys in one shift. Not like something like that. It's the competitiveness. It's the hatred of losing. It's the anger in him that he plays the game with that I think is going to be so different and transformational in that bottom six.
Who's a better cook, Wood or Colton? When you don't know the answer to that, are you a good cook? No.
I mean, I made delicious breakfast today. It was scrambled eggs and toast.
Yeah, not too complicated of a meal there. I'm not a good cook either, and let me tell you, when the wife works all day and she comes home and she doesn't want to cook either, Factor is the way to go. We got a box.
You guys been getting down on that?
Yeah, it's been good. My expectations were low, I'll be honest, but it was actually very, very good. So if you haven't checked it out yet, Factor is a meal kit service, and not just any. They're America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. You can help fuel up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Like I was saying, the best part about it is it saves you a ton of time, as well as getting to eat well and stay on track with whatever your goals might be. Their meals are fresh, never frozen, and they're ready in just 2 minutes. Super easy to heat up and have. I think they're the perfect meal for lunch, to be honest with you. Something you can grab, eat, ready to go, super fast. A bunch of restaurant quality options. You can get 34 different things, ranging from shrimp risotto, green goddess chicken, grilled steakhouse filet mignon. All of these ready in just 2 minutes. So go check it out. They have a bunch of different options and deals. We went with the chef's choice, but if you want a vegan or vegetarian option, they have things like that too. They have a bunch of different plans for different diets. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Whatever suits your fancy when it comes to fast, easy, delicious meals, you can head to factormeals.com/DNVRAvs50 today to get 50% off when you first order. That's that's factormeals.com/DNVRAvs50 to get that 50% off today. And then when you have a little bit of money left over, you got to check out the Circa Resort and Casino. I don't know if any of y'all were watching the Nuggets summer league stuff like AJ and I were hanging out at Circa at the what's it actually called? I just call it the pool with the big TV. It's the I forget the actual name of it. I'm sorry, Circa, but the giant TV with the pool, that's Circa. You can go to their place and watch whatever sporting event in the pool with the swim up bars and the swim up blackjack and all of the amazing stuff. It's called a stadium swim. There we go. That's what it's called. Found it in the end. Got there eventually. Look, Circa's got a bunch of dope stuff in Vegas. If you've never been, you really should go check it out. Their casino is also huge, 7,000 square foot casino with 2 levels. The resort has over 500 rooms with a variety of layouts to fit your needs. All I'm saying is we know the Avs play Vegas a couple times a year. Beyond that, you also have, I mean, I don't know if it'll be this year, but you know, pretty regularly the Avs will have their rookie tournament there. So it should be a fun time. Something you can plan around every couple of years to go to Vegas, have a good time, hang out with Circa. For whatever reason, if you're going to Vegas, maybe it's Broncos Raiders too. You can book your stay with Circa and use code DNVR20 for 20% off. You can download the app at Circa Sports. You can place bets right here from Colorado. That's what you want to do. So check it out that way too with Circa. You must be 21 or older, all rights reserved. Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, you can call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamingcolorado.org. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. AJ having some technical difficulties. I'm assuming will rejoin me in a minute here. But moving forward, we're talking about Ross Colton. AJ's initial thoughts are with Miles Wood, and I do think that's probably the realistic expectation for the season is you're going to see Colton spend a good amount of time on that third line in general. He does have a 39-point season under his belt already, so I do think there is a little bit of expectation for production here from Colton for multiple reasons. One, I do think there should be opportunities either via injury or just regular opportunity for him to get shifts up the lineup. I think the Avs want that out of him, given they were willing to give him a $4 million deal, which happens to be the exact same amount that they're paying Ryan Johansen as their 2C. So there's very much opportunity, I think, for Colton to get some of that action. And more importantly, I really think you could see him play both sides of special teams, both power play and penalty kill. Penalty kill, a little bit looser on, but the Avs are going to need guys to fill out that role. And if that works out, you really could see Colton playing a significant number of minutes, closer to second line minutes than third line minutes if he ends up working on both sides of special teams. Another goal scorer for the Avs, depth, I guess, if you want to call it depth. I really do think it's more of a middle six role, so I don't know if you consider that depth or not. That's up to you. You can pick it your way. Best case scenario, you could really even be talking about a 45-point guy, I think, when it comes to Colton. You're talking about at minimum a 20-goal season, maybe even pushing for 25. He has a 22-goal season under his belt already, especially if he gets time up on the second line, playing with talent, playing with other guys that, for example, if you put Colton and Drouin together, Drouin just feeding that guy pucks and he's scoring goals as AJ returns. AJ, best case scenario, I'm saying Colton 45 points, maybe more.
I'd say 50.
You up to 50? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say 50 and 25, 30 goals. Yeah.
30 would be impressive. 25, I can see.
30 would be, to be honest, like the absolute ceiling of it. But I think I'm leaving that door open as a best case scenario of it's increased ice time. He plays 16 minutes a night, and he has one of those shooting percentage seasons. You know, where a guy just absolutely goes off. And you look at think of Ryan Hartman a couple of years ago. He had a 34 goal season or whatever the hell it was, and then immediately went right back to it.
I'm sure Ross Colton would love to play next to Kirill Kaprizov for a year.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, look, if McKinnon, when McKinnon gets hurt for 10 games this year,
Colton's moving up,
yeah, exactly. Put him in a top 6 job, but put him on a 1C. Let's just see how it goes. What happens here?
So yeah, I think that's the ceiling. Realistically, though, I do think 20 goals should be attainable.
I think it should be an expectation. Part of the
4 million,
appeal of picking him up was that he is, again, kind of like Miles Wood, not much in terms of playmaking here, though a little bit better than Wood with, I mean, a whopping 16 assists last season. I think 17 the year before. So I think that is, and hey, if he's playing in a consistent role next to some guys that can finish, maybe he, in order to get to the 50, he's probably gonna have to bump that up to 25.
Yeah, certainly at least 20.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I'm thinking with and the other thing with Colton is that part of the best case, he takes to a PK role. Yeah. And he answers that question of like, who's that guy that takes the face off, and defensively he rounds out his game in a way that he hasn't had to at this point, like up to this point in his career.
So let me ask you this then. Obviously, the face-offs do matter. It's part of the reason he got the contract that he did. Is there a world where you see him floating up the lineup, not necessarily to replace Rijo, but to play next to him, whether that's Rijo or him on the wing? I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they have top 6 injuries, I think he's one of the first guys that you want to move up there because of his goal scoring ability and because he has such a lethal one-timer and because he has shown the ability to excel on the wing next to skilled players, as he did in Tampa Bay. So I think that he's probably first in line for that promotion whenever they have a top 6 injury.
Even if it's a put him on the wing situation?
I think the temptation is there. The major concern with that right now is that you don't have a replacement for him as 3C.
Right. I mean, they still have a player to go out and get this offseason, so.
Right, but I mean, if there's a wing, if a guy gets hurt, if Arturi Lehkonen gets hurt, you could move Miles Wood up there into your top 6. Nichushkin moves to your top line. You move Miles Wood to the wing.
Yeah.
These different there are different avenues there that they could try before that if they wanted to, and then they would just move a guy up to replace Wood. With Colton, there isn't really an obvious answer right now to fill that center spot if he is the guy they want to move.
YOLOing Ben Myers in your 4th line just is whatever it is at that point. Yeah,
exactly, and it's you're in last year's position, and that's where one of the concerns this year is depth.
Yep.
Because you get to that problem immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Have they done a better job? Do I like their 1 through 4 center depth?
When healthy, it's better, yes. But
yeah, but in terms of injury, last year's team, you could at least move Alex Newhook, Evan Rodriguez, or JT Compher into a center spot. You had a really rare, like super versatile group of forwards that could do that job for you. This year, you don't have that at the moment, and I doubt whoever they want to go sign that's still left on the market is going to have that kind of versatility to be able to do that. Because if it's a guy like Danton Heinen, as much as we've liked him, that's not it.
To see if Danton Heinen has ever played center in his career right now.
The chat talking about Jean-Luc Foudy. Look, Jean-Luc Foudy hadn't played center in the AHL.
Mm-hmm. They moved him to wing pretty quickly down there.
He's been a wing for the vast majority of his time with the Eagles. He's done it a little bit, but not primarily. That's not where he's had his success. That's not where he has lit it up, and that's not where he projects moving forward. So that's that would be a major leap to put that guy as a center.
So let's get into worst case scenario then on Colton. Is being a third liner good enough, or are you already drifting into Colton is struggling at that point?
Yeah, and I say this all the time that the guys who wreck salary caps are not the guys at the top,
Yep.
but it's the guys that make between $3 and $5 million, and more specifically, it's more like the 4 to 5 range. Those guys either, because they are almost always depth guys in the way that Colton is right now, but it's
so I will say, to play devil's advocate to that a little bit, with Colton and the cap going up, and I know I argued against this yesterday, but that number does start to creep up where the bad contracts, I think in a couple of years, maybe it's more like 4 to 6 million instead of 3 to 5. Just given the rising tides in general. But yes, if Colton ends up being like a 20-point player for $4 million, that's horribly cap inefficient.
Yeah, exactly. And before my brain turned off, this is where I was trying to get, is that you need cost efficiency on contracts. You're paying premium top dollar for Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar, and
you have to,
Nathan
because they're
McKinnon.
the best players in the world.
Exactly. You're and like, hey, you've got a starting goaltender making under $4 million. You have a top 10 starting goaltender making under $4 million. You're feeling wonderful here. You have a top pairing defenseman in Devon Taves making $4 million. Your second pairing is now a little pricey, making $5 million and just a shade under 4. But that's Ryan Johansen. Part of the big thing with Ryan Johansen, $4 million for a second line center is extremely reasonable. $4 million for a third line center is not.
Well,
so it's pricey. But if he, best case scenario, he lives up to it and he's still a cost efficient player. He has a 50-point season. It's over 20 goals. He does all the things that we've lauded him for doing, and he's a wonderful fit. And he makes the Avalanche absolutely miserable to play against in a postseason series. Worst case scenario is those things don't happen. He can't handle the full-time center duties. He has to become a wing and then does not score the goals that he needs to score. And he has a sub 30-point season. And you're looking at that deal like, oh my God.
Sub 30 points for him, assuming health, would be borderline disastrous, honestly.
It would be hard to make up for that. It would be hard to envision this roster being successful at a high level with that.
Yep, I agree. Your segue about getting value, though, does kind of lead us into our next guy. Could end up being an extremely good value contract. Yeah, fair enough. Before that, though, we are brought to you by Illegal Pete's. They have the best happy hour in town. You can go from 3 to 8 p.m., which should be fine because the rain happens at 3 to 8 a.m. apparently now. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but we got woken up in the middle of the night by a gigantic thunderstorm, so that was interesting. Avoid that by going to Illegal Pete's in the afternoons. Get their burritos, get their margaritas, live the dream at one of their 11 different locations here in Colorado. Go check them out for the burritos, stay for the margaritas, have a good time. One just a couple blocks from the DNVR bar. Get yourself some Illegal Pete's. Also brought to you by the folks over at Shady Rays. You can get yours that look just as cool as these bad boys right here over at shadyrays.com. When you use code DNVR, you get 50% off your order when you order 2 pairs of sunglasses or more. So get over there, take a look at all the different kinds of styles they have, get what you want. And the best part is the first 30 days, it's no risk. You break them, they'll replace them. You lose them, they'll replace them. You don't like them, send them back. They'll give you a different pair that you do like. So go check them out again, shadyrays.com. If you're local, they do have a brick and mortar in the Park Meadows Mall. Be sure to use the DNVR code to get that 50% off. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Okay. Is the Jonathan Drouin experiment going to work, AJ?
I think so.
Me too. I think it's going to really work.
Me too. I just think there'll be more on this when I sit down and do a proper Jonathan Drouin film room. But the player that I watched last year, when he did get into games and was healthy and was good to go, man, he's dynamic.
Yeah.
And he's still got that creativity in the hands and the vision, and he's a fun guy. And I think that I mean, I don't think he's going to be like he lives up to all that draft hype, and it's this, it's that, it's all the superlatives that you throw at like the reclamation projects of the world.
I don't know about that.
I don't think it's going to
easily be a 50-point guy, though.
I'm expecting him to be a 50-point guy. And I think he's going to shoot more. I think he's going to score more goals.
It feels so easy for him to put him next to a lot of guys in the Avs top six, and for him to become a 15-35 guy. Like,
fuck, man, you could even have the conversation about putting him next to Miles Wood and Ross Colton on your third line and being like, here are two guys that don't really pass the puck all that well. Go, and they want to go to the front of the net and they want to put their big butts in goalies' faces. Yep. Go do that. Like, go find little backdoor passes to these guys all over the ice. Like, in that case, obviously you're like, well, what's going on with the top six? I don't know. I'm just saying. You drop that guy onto any line, and your expectation is that you might have a defensive problem. Like, you just might. That may be the aspect of his game at which I am most curious to see how it comes around.
Yeah.
But I would also say that his goal scoring, like, you are talking about like extreme numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, he had like an 8-goal season.
It's 2.
No. You are talking about like, I think it's 16 or 17 goals in his last 163 games. Like,
17 in his last 4 seasons.
You are talking about this dude has not scored much.
And that is
at all.
He scored 17 goals in his last 4 seasons. The season before that, he scored 18. So.
Right. And so, like, it goes to show, like, his entire Montreal tenure was kind of just jacked up.
Yeah.
And there was way more going on than this is, and I have alluded to this multiple times, but it's not just hockey stuff, and it's not just regular old injuries. It's not just a hamstring.
Yep.
He had pretty significant off ice
issues for sure.
Obstacles facing him.
Yep.
And him working through those, and we'll see how he does in a new environment in Colorado when he might be away from some of the support that he had built up at the end of his time in Montreal. But maybe it makes it easier to get out of the pressure cooker and kind of out of a spotlight where when he got there, he was traded 1-for-1 for Mikhail Sergachev,
especially
who has gone
for
on to be
a
very
French-speaking guy.
A guy from the area.
Yep.
There were elevated expectations, and for good reason, because he has outsized talent. Mm-hmm. He has the kind of offensive talent that is just nuts.
Yep.
Like, legitimately game-breaking kind of offensive ability.
Talent-wise, has the ability to be that guy every single night. Reality probably is not going to get to that level. But.
Right. I mean, but the ability to kind of be a poor man's version of prime Patrick Kane.
Yep.
Just an extremely slick playmaker with the puck along the wall. And I think that I do think that in Colorado, that's your best case. This hits. Yep. This hits like but pardon the obvious reference here, but like a Mack truck, man. Like, this is this he gets into this up-tempo system. He puts in the work on defense. He gets the top 6 role. He gels next to whoever the hell he plays next to, McKinnon Johansen, Colton, whatever. He gels next to that, and he takes off, and he has a 60-point season.
Yep. He could completely become a 20-40 guy for Colorado. If things work out, if things click, if he finds that spot.
Yeah.
And I think even better, well, not better than that, but there's basically no risk here because the worst case scenario for the Avs is that it doesn't work out and he essentially costs you nothing but the time invested.
Yeah. And if they wanted to bury him and send him to the AHL, they could do that. If they wanted to term the contract, they could have that conversation. If they wanted to just healthy scratch him, okay, that's also like a part of one of the options on the table here. Yeah. So those are all things that they could do if this does not go well. They are not like tied to him.
Yep.
Whereas we talked about both Colton and Wood. If those don't go well, you have real concerns. You've got big concerns because those are and not so much Wood because of the money, but because of the term where you're just like, what are we gonna do? Can we salvage this? And Colton, it is the money, really. So
and Drouin is the opposite. Drouin has found money.
There's no risk. It's not even high risk, high reward. There's no risk here.
Yep.
The risk is that, oh, hey, you were wrong and you still need a top 6 guy. And as we have seen in this market, this trade market, this NHL market, wings have been devalued like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could probably find a guy early in the season. You could probably find a guy at the trade deadline to do something, to fill that role for a reasonable price. That does not involve first round picks or Mikhail Gulyev or, any of that, any of the top guys. Like very reasonably priced. And they've got access to their 2026 second round pick. That thing is not staying.
No.
If it makes it to the draft floor next year, I will be shocked.
And one other thing I'd like to add on Drouin, he has spent a lot of time on non-cup caliber teams. Even the one run Montreal made, he was hurt for a significant portion of that season and then balled out in those playoffs. The last time he was on a real contender where he really played, 53 points in 73 games with Tampa Bay, including 21 goals. Yes, obviously there's an off-ice conversation of the issues he's had.
Yeah.
But in a good team with a good system, a system somewhat similar to Colorado's, signs point to good things.
Dude, that's kind of where it is with Jonathan Drouin. And you're also talking about he just took he's not even going to make $1 million this year.
Yep.
And he's made plenty of money in the last 5 years in Montreal.
Yeah.
With that lucrative deal he signed upon the deal, but he is still young enough here to, if he has the 60-point season,
someone could pay him $6 million for sure.
He's going to go into a free agent market where and what it's honestly starting to annoy me a little bit, but it's true. 32 teams are about to get $4 free million to spend against the salary cap next summer.
Yep.
Regardless of what their cap situation is, they're about to get $4 million to do whatever they decide to do with it. That's a decent chunk of change league-wide. And
team's about to be drunk with cap space for sure.
Exactly. And there are going to be some teams, hey, if he has a good season, if you're Chicago, aren't you a little tempted? If you're in Arizona, aren't you a little tempted to be like, okay. let's put him next to some of our young studs and see how this goes. And he could kind of be our Matt Zuccarello to the Kirill Kaprizov that they've had in Minnesota for the last handful of years.
Second banana could work out.
Yeah, that guy goes and he plays the Matt Zuccarello in Chicago with next to Connor Bedard. I mean, that's a great situation.
We're talking best case scenario. Maybe he just loves playing with McKinnon so much he takes a discount and stays.
I think that conversation is way more realistic if there's something up with Landeskog.
Sure.
And that $7 million becomes a permanent part of their cap moving forward. He just can't do it. Then that's a way different situation. The concern, obviously, with that is you get a year down the road, and then it's like, well, we don't know. We have to wait till opening night. We don't know how he's recovering.
Middle zone, yeah.
And you're stuck in fucking $7 million limbo once again.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think, yeah, best case, and I think he's already said, I would love for this to work out and to stay.
Yeah.
And that's, Evan Rodriguez wanted to stay too.
Take that with a grain of salt, of course.
Like, when you get the offer you're looking for, you gotta take it.
So instead of being drunk on cap space, I prefer to get drunk on beer. You can get yours from Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. 8 different kinds on tap at the DNVR bar, but they're everywhere in the 50 United States. You can use the Breck Beer Locator online at breckbrew.com, unless you're like AJ and in Canada, and then you can't get it there. So lame, but did you smuggle any in this year?
I did.
No, boy.
Yep. Smuggle. I declared at the border. Like, the country knows I brought it in.
No, I choose to believe you're a criminal doing illegal activities.
I mean, I think it raises my profile quite a bit. It makes me significantly cooler.
Also brought to you by the fantastic people. I combine fantastic and people into one word over at FOCO, where you can get amazing bobbleheads and other sports merchandise, licensed apparel from all teams all over the country. Most importantly, right now, though, the Nuggets championship bobbleheads are what you got to get in on when it comes to FOCO. Get over there, go get a bobblehead that's Jokic saying he wants to fucking stay on parade.
What happens next year at FOCO when the Nuggets and Avs both win titles?
Yeah, they're going to have a crowded section of bobbleheads for sure. Might take a little longer to produce all of that.
I mean, I just wonder, like, do they just make like tandem? Do they at that point make like parade bobbleheads? They make fire trucks. They make fire trucks that you can. They have actual seats in them, like the old TMNT truck toy, where you could put the turtles in their assigned seats around in the thing, and like except you do that, but then you also have like the little action figures of the players.
They're going to run out of room because they're going to have to make one with Makar and Jokic, and they're going to have to put 2 Conn Smythes on it and 2 NBA Finals MVPs on it. It's going to be a crowded bobblehead, to say the least.
Dude, it's just going to be a traveling trophy case. Because they'll also have the Stanley Cup and Larry O'Brien trophy.
Yep, it's going to be
good. Just cruising down the street in downtown Denver. I like this. This is sick.
Check them out, foco.com. Use the DNVR code to get 10% off your order and get free shipping. The last guy on the list being the first guy the Avs acquired this offseason, Ryan Johansen, at $4 million. Best case scenario, he's a 60 plus 2C, right? 60 plus 0.2C for Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Goes in, does the job he's been doing for years, has success with quality players put around him, whether that be Rantanen and Nichushkin, or I can't imagine they're going to split up McKinnon and Lehkonen, but sure, you could throw him down there too.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. He lagged out again. Look at that. Holding his glasses right there. Look, the reality for Ryjo is to be successful, he does have to turn his goal scoring up a little bit. I think he can't fully settle into being the guy that strictly distributes. He still can do a significant amount of distributing, especially if the Avs run and lineup of putting Mikko next to Ryan Johansen. It's a pretty easy connection to make for me, where Ryjo distributes from the middle to Mikko, and that's how they score a ton of goals. But there are going to be times this season where Raijo is going to have to carry the lineup. Not the full lineup, but certainly carry his line as far as being the guy who puts the puck in the back of the net, especially if he ends up playing on a line with a Nichushkin, with a Lehkonen, with a Drouin. Someone's going to be the trigger man there, and it's probably going to fall on Raijo to do that. If he can put up 20, 25 goals, definitely think he can be a 35 assist guy. That should not be a difficult ask for someone like Raijo. It's something that he's done in his past multiple times in his career. So definitely something you can expect out of him. I mean, he technically has a 50 assist season in his past, but if he does that, great. That means Mikko Rantanen is scoring 60 goals this year. So if that's the way he can get there, I'm not going to complain about it, but I do think it will take more goal scoring for him to really push that 60 to 70 point range in Colorado. I also think he's fully capable of doing that right now. You're talking about a guy who's maybe not quite in his prime, but he's only 30. He's not even close, or really shouldn't be even close to getting over the hump, assuming he can stay healthy. So fully capable of filling those roles. I think we've pretty well established at this point that he's not a true 1C. If he needs to do that job long term, it's probably not going to work out great for Colorado, but that's what Nathan MacKinnon is for. So not really a problem there. The worst case scenario, on the other hand, is, I mean, again, barring injury, we're going to ignore that because obviously if he doesn't play, that's the worst case scenario. I actually don't think there's as much downside as a lot of people think there is for this deal. Like, I think the Nashville seasons are very much outliers of his low production. Certainly should be, assuming health in Av's system, a 40-point guy. If he does anything less than that, it would be, one, quite disappointing, and two, just not acceptable as a true 2C for the team. And you do get into an interesting conversation there of, if he's struggling and Ross Colton's playing well, maybe Colton takes over that role and Johansen ends up in a 3C role, which doesn't fit him nearly as well. He's going to be distributing to players with a little bit less talent at that point. You have question marks on how effective he truly is defensively. He's certainly not going to be a penalty kill guy for you. He's playing third line minutes. All of a sudden his ice time starts to tumble, and you're now kind of stuck with a player in an awkward situation that doesn't make a ton of sense in your lineup. Compared to the second line role, where I think it makes perfect sense. It makes a ton of sense for things to line up for Colorado if he can do that role. But if he can't, things could get dirty really, really quickly with how the Avs end up organizing things as far as their lineup is concerned. As AJ is now back again. I just went off for 5 minutes about Drouin, or about Raijo. So say whatever you have to say.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry. I think of all the guys they got, he is the one that makes me the most uncomfortable.
Okay.
Just because several years of injuries, it is heartening that his one healthy season was very productive.
Yep.
I think with Johansen, I'm so confident that with Drouin and Colton especially, it's gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
And with Raijo, I'm less convinced. And I didn't. Given the prices involved, I probably would have preferred Kevin Hayes.
I don't think I would have, but I'm kind of talking about this like what you were saying. The thing with Raijo is, for it to work, it kind of has to work at 2C. I think there's a lot less flexibility there for him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And the Avs have the most at stake in Rijo working or not working. Because if he doesn't work, asking Ross Colton to do that job might be too much. If he can, awesome. Like, that would be wonderful. And makes you feel like that, and all of a sudden the Colton deal looks even better because now you've got your potential 2C for the next 3 years at $4 million, and you can do whatever you need to do with Rijo in the offseason. But with Rijo, they kind of just need it to work.
Yeah. In the immediate, yeah, it just needs to work at 2C. And I think it very well can. I think there's I don't even know if it's best case scenario that he becomes a 60-point guy here.
No, I think the expectation, he needs to be a 50-point guy. You just need your freaking 2C to be a 50-point player. It's not an unreasonable ask. Yep. You just kind of need that.
I agree.
He's good enough. I am curious if he... I still think that the best course of action is to put Nichushkin and Rantanen flanking Rijo.
I think Rantanen for sure.
And I think that puts him in the... I think that puts him in the conversation of 60 points pretty easily.
I mean,
because feeding, and I think he's gonna be on the first power play unit, and so 60 points. If 60 points can't be your best case is like 75 with that guy.
If you play a full season next to Rantanen, being the type of player that Rijo is, I mean, 40 assists should be almost automatic, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Val Nichushkin, a 20-goal guy too.
Yeah, true.
Artturi Lehkonen, a 20-goal guy. Like, it really doesn't. Nichushkin, Lehkonen, whichever one they want to go with there. It doesn't matter.
The key for me is actually the opposite. I was talking about this while you were gone. I really do think he needs to get back to 20 goals.
That's where his best case is.
Yeah. He's fully capable of being a 20 to 25 goal guy. He's done it multiple times across his career. He even has a 30-goal season, but that is a long time back. But can definitely hit 25.
It is. Yeah, the 30 is, I'm not asking for 30 at this point. If he does it, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But 20, I think 20 is a reasonable marker, especially for a guy that's going to be playing on a top 5-ish power play in the league. He just needs to produce.
Yep.
He's going to be part of the appeal is the net front presence. He's got to produce there. He's got to get some deflections. He's got to get some rebounds. He just has to pick up points there. He just has to. And we saw, I mean, to be honest, the reason for optimism here is you saw what playing next to Mikko Rantanen did for JT Compher.
Mm-hmm.
You saw what these exact opportunities did for JT Compher. He had a 52-point season. Just blew out his career
high. Yeah.
And Ryan Johansen's just a more talented player than that.
Certainly on the offensive side, yeah.
If he gets those kinds of opportunities and he stays healthy, your best case really is like a 70, 75 point season, like a big time year from him.
So there's a best case scenario world. We're down the middle. The Avs are 110 points with McKinnon, 75 from Rijo, and in the 40s from Colton. Pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Not to mention a potential 60 points from Drouin on the wing.
Right. And you know, you're probably talking about another 80 or 90 points out of Mikko.
Yep.
You know, you're looking at 50 or 60 points out of Lehkonen, 50 or 60 points out of Nichushkin, If you get more than that, hell yeah.
Yep.
And you are talking, if Miles Wood can give you 35, if Logan O'Connor can give you 30,
Yep.
or whoever ends up on that third line, that's your best case here is you're a top 5 goal scoring team in the league, and girl, you nasty.
And your worst case is Mikko Rantanen's your 2C 2 months into the season. You don't know what you're doing with Ryjo. Ross Colton looks like a bottom sixer, and Miles Wood is barely functional in the NHL, while Drouin has been kicked to the moon.
Yep.
So I predict it will be somewhere in between those two.
Well, yeah, and we're talking all the scoring. We haven't even talked about the defense.
Yeah, there wasn't anyone new really on the defensive side.
No, I just mean we're talking you put the lineup together, you start looking at what do they have here in terms of points, and then you're like, oh hey, by the way, Cale Makar throws up a 90-point season, and Devon Taves has 60 in a walk year, and Bo Byram gives you 50, and Sam Girard gives you 35.
That's a lot of points.
That's a shitload of points from your defense. At that point, you're almost like, does Jack Johnson even have time to score points? Josh, 20 from Josh Manson, you're thrilled. 25, you're.
Jack Johnson is like the Red Bull engines in free practice. All right, you got to sandbag a little bit so they don't start making rules to limit how good you can be.
God, man, can you believe that they major upgrades on the way to that car? I'm like, dude, it's gonna take.
That's an appropriate conversation. You just got banned by Red Bull for trying to speak out against them. I'm going to leave it there. I think AJ's face is perfect. We're going to get out of here for today's show. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us for a Thursday podcast. We will be back for Friday's show. Should be a fun one. Hope you guys tune in to that. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the next one.